Hello everyone. Thanks for coming back for the visit to my channel. And I'm very excited to be here tonight. And I have some announcements to make at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And tonight I want to tell you a little bit of story about um, some of my childhood so you can understand a little bit more about me. As I have mentioned before, I come from a family of 9 children. I'm the second oldest. There were 6 girls and 3 boys. 4 girls were born first, and then 1 boy, then a set of twin boys. So I have twin brothers, and then 2 sisters. Now, each of us were about a year and a half apart, except for the last 2, and there was 7 years difference between them. Now, growing up, my parents, well, not really my parents, not my mom so much, but my dad had told us that he never wanted any kids. Yet he had 9 children. And he said none of us were ever wanted. We were all accidents. We were unplanned. And I was kind of puzzled by that because I thought, how could somebody have 9 kids that never wanted any children at all? And he would always tell me particularly. I don't know about my sisters. I've never really discussed this with them, but he would always tell me that I was worthless, that I was never wanted, I was an accident, I was never going to amount to anything, that I was stupid. And he also called me a name that I'm not going to say on here because it's a very vulgar and degrading name to say to a female. Now, I don't know if he said the same, called my sisters the same name, but I do remember him saying that to me. And so one time I asked my mom, I said, Daddy always said that none of us kids were ever wanted. We were all accidents, mistakes. And she said, yeah, you were. And I said, well, Mom, what about birth control? Didn't you try birth control? And she said, yeah, I tried lots of different birth controls and none of them ever worked. She said, with you, she said, you came through a busted rubber. Now, isn't that something for a parent to tell their child? You know, I said, Mom, how could you say that to me? And she said, well, you ask questions. You want to know how come we had so many children. I was just telling you, I tried birth control, but it never worked with any of you. Except, she said, until they came out with the pill. And then the pill did work. Now, she was taking the pill when she had the child number 8, the next to the last child. She was on the pill at that time. And I don't know what other kinds of birth controls she tried with all the rest of them. I never asked her that part. I just know what she told me was the situation with me, with my arrival. And so my father was either, I can't remember exactly if he was born with polio or if he developed polio at a young age as a child. But he did have polio in his right arm. So he learned how to do everything with his left hand. And he went to work and supported us, the whole family. I think he probably worked 7 days a week because I barely remember him being at home mostly through the week. It was usually just Mama and us kids. So, he worked. We always had a nice home to live in with heat, regular heat and running water. We didn't have to burn wood, and we didn't have an outdoor toilet. There was always food on the table. We had stuff to eat, and we always had a Christmas. We got Easter baskets. We got new clothes at the beginning of the school, and we even took vacations, through the years. So, at that time as a child, I didn't think a whole lot about it. But because I always thought when we were growing up that we were actually poor, because I compared us to other people, I guess, that had more than us. But looking back on it now, we weren't that bad off. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My father, up until the time my father had a stroke, my mom stayed at home with us kids. She was always there when we came home from school. She had our little after school snacks. She packed our lunches for us. And my father always worked. And like I said, I think he worked 7 days a week. So we weren't lacking for anything. And but I felt like, him saying that he didn't want any of us and we were accidents. We still had a pretty decent childhood. When I look back on it now, we took vacations and we had stuff that I hear other people say they never even got Christmas presents, and they never had new schools close at the beginning of the year. Now, it never was nothing really fancy, and I'm sure it probably wasn't in style. It was probably bought from like a local Woolworth store or something. We had tennis shoes for school shoes. And when I was growing up, the girls were not allowed to wear pants. We wore dresses or a skirt and a blouse. So, like at Christmas and for Easter, we always got a new Easter dress. And then at Christmas, we would get skirts and blouses and dresses and stuff like that, socks and underwear. Um, but now, like I said, my father always worked. He was a freelance mechanic, and he was a very intelligent man. I think he was basically self-taught. I don't know how far he went in school, but I think that he probably taught himself how to do the occupation that he did. And what happened between the last two kids, like I said, mom went on the pill. When they finally developed the pill and she got on that, she was able to keep from getting pregnant. Now, I don't know why she didn't have surgery to have her tubes tied after the first one child. Maybe they couldn't afford it, or maybe that wasn't something that was just available at that time. But when the pill came out and she got on that, she was able to stop having babies. And then my father had a stroke, and it actually crippled him on the other side. His right arm was with polio, and so his left arm was what he used. And when he had the stroke, it actually took out his left arm. So he was basically not able to work at all, and he ended up going on disability. And my mom did go back to work at that time for a short period of time. But the reason they had that last child, which was 7 years, an age difference between them, as much as I can remember, I think it was 7 years. My father thought that he was sterile because of the stroke and that he couldn't have any more children. So my mom went off the pill, and sure enough, when she went off the pill, she had another baby. Now, by this time, she was in her 40s. Maybe she got to the point where it was physically unable for her to have babies. I can't remember if after she had that last one, she had her tubes tied or not. I think she did. But I do know that she was up in her 40s when she had that, my baby's sister, which was 7 years between that. But I look back on it now, and some of the stuff, I guess when you're a child, you see things differently than you do as an adult. Actually, we weren't that poor as I thought we were. Um, I think maybe the reason that I felt like we were poor was because I didn't get everything that I wanted as a child. You know how some kids seem like everything they want, their parents buy for them. That wasn't the case with me. There was a lot of stuff that I would like to have, and my parents never got it for me. I don't hold that against them, because they were working and raising 9 children, feeding us and clothing us. I mean, our meals they weren't nothing elaborate, but we did have food that was fit to eat. I've heard other people say that when they growed up, it was beans and cornbread and potatoes. I don't think I ever remember a time that I sat down to a meal of beans. Um, Now, there was a lot of hamburger and chicken that was bought, but my mom would make like meatloaf or chili or spaghetti, tacos. We had tacos, we had fried chicken. Sometimes they would buy pork chops. Um, and there was always a vegetable to go with it. We used sliced bread. And we always had a dessert because my father had a sweet tooth. And this was back before you had a lot of the prepackaged cakes and pies and stuff. So all the desserts that we had, my mama made them from scratch. Cakes and stuff like that was made with flour and sugar and eggs that she actually made from scratch, because my daddy liked it. He said that a meal wasn't really a meal unless it had a dessert with it. So anyway, that's a little bit about what I grew up with as a child. Now, I do want to remind you that on the 23rd, I'm going to be making the announcement for my first giveaway, and that's to celebrate my anniversary month of starting the YouTube channel. It'll be a month that I've had my channel at that time, 30 days. And then there'll be 2 days for you to enter the drawing, and then I'll be making the drawing on Christmas Day. Now, I realize probably a lot of you won't tune in on Christmas Day to see the drawing. Or maybe I'll post the video on Christmas Day and it won't go up until the next day. But regardless of that, that's what I have planned for the future, is to do a drawing, a little giveaway to celebrate my channel. I really appreciate you all coming back and listening to my stories. I hope they're at least a little bit enjoyable and not too boring. And I just thank you so much for being here, and come back and visit me again. Thanks, y'all. Bye.